Hey everybody, this is Imperium's Knight here, and welcome to Dylan Talks Phantom, episode number 54. 54 episodes in, we are back in Minecraft this week because this is a normal episode, and for this episode I have slated out AU building. So we're going to talk about the steps to making an AU, how you flesh things out, etc, etc, and I don't really make a whole lot of AUs. I have like a couple small ones, not going to lie, almost all of them are to appease my Sephora problem, but I don't really make a whole lot of big AUs, so I thought that now would be a good time to maybe ask for some help. So what about getting the person who made the future AU on? Everybody please welcome to the show, Funblade.
Hi.
So, officially, this is your first appearance.
Yeah, officially, yes.
Officially. So, people may remember the announcement. I don't know if everybody saw what actually did happen, but Funblade and I, we did an interview together. It was a lovely interview. And unfortunately, technical reasons, that interview no longer exists. But
yeah.
now they're here. Now they're in. They're the first person to step foot into my fandom world. So I'm just gonna run about now.
I feel so special.
Should. So yeah, you're on here. You're gonna talk about AU building and whatnot. Oh. Also, one more thing before we start, if you will come over here real fast.
Oh, diamonds.
Behind you. And now, I have 100% completion in Minecraft!
You just used me for achievements.
Not gonna lie, that was a partial motivation for you coming onto the show. Funblade will be messing about, running amok, and talking about AU stuff. I'll mostly be facilitating this. I'll ask questions as I deem them necessary. But yeah, Funblade, are you ready to go?
Yes, I am. I'm just punching down this tree. Mostly like Yang. Yang would do that. Punch a tree.
Oh, also, Funblade's not recording her screen, so you'll just be seeing the wonderful adventures of your host. All right, so
yes.
Let's start with your AU specifically. How did the idea of the future AU originally come about?
The AU originally came about out of a desire to make White Rose just possible. That is really the defining motivation for it. That I'm not gonna lie, that's the reason why I did it. I was like, I want them to get together. How do I get them together? Okay, what's the catalyst to get them together? Oh yay, let me just take out Ruby's eye. Okay, but that seems too complicated. Who's gonna witness it? Weiss will. Why did she lose it? Poor Weiss. Although, and then it just like, okay, how did she lose it? Okay. And then it just starts off from there. It's kind of like a domino effect with how I figure it. I figured that, like, what is the motivation? What caused it? What like, dynamics will come out after the effect, and then it just goes on from there. It was really sporadic how I thought about it, because I was just so in White Rose mode. I was like, I want this to happen now, and in a certain way. And two.
Oh so... gosh, that makes me... It does make me feel a little bit better about myself, because I led this off with, yeah, all of my AUs are like 2 apiece of 4, and I'm like, and here's the expert on AUs here for this episode. I'm like, yeah, I totally just made AUs for White Rose. Like, totally just made AUs for my chef.
I think the Ivory Tower Crumbles motivation is the same way. They wanted to make monochrome a certain, like, canon in a specific fashion, so they made the Mafia AU. So, really, it could just be so simple as trying to make an AU canon or fit in a certain way that could motivate an AU. I did that a lot for Cinder RWBY AU. I did that for Bloodlines AU. I'm pretty much doing it for any AU I can think of right now, so it's like I have like more AUs in my head when I just sit around and so I just haven't put them out to the world.
Well, I think that the real takeaway here is just that this fandom is fucking garbage, and that's pretty much it. We always make things to make us happy. And that's really
we all go in a certain trash heap, and then we just sit there.
Yeah. Yup. All right. So then, after you got the initial idea down for the, well, don't even know if I call it an initial idea. If it's like you were like, all right, let's make them kiss now. After that happened,
Yeah.
uh, then how did you begin developing it, starting to make it more than just let's make them kiss now?
The funny thing is, the future AU was just a small little idea. I was just like, okay, maybe the big reveal, like really the future AU was only going to be a small comic, and it was just a concert about Weiss singing, and then Ruby was a bit late for the concert, and then Ruby arrives like possibly a few minutes in, but she's there in the seat, and Weiss notices, and then they just have a quiet moment where just Weiss tends to the injured part of Ruby's face. This is before I took away her entire forearm, by the way. So, but um, um, and that would just because I was at the time just making like small little dumb comics for Ruby back when it was still young, just funny little things. And since I was like in that comic mood, I was like, okay, I am stuck. Oh, so never mind. I stood on a plate. I stood on a plate, and I was like, oh.
Oh,
Yeah, that was only what it was going to be, and then I would just the questions, what my thought processes were like. It was to generate a few questions, and then I would probably just move on to the next thing. And then I was like, yeah. And then I was telling it to Ami PI at the time, and it was just, okay. Well, how do we design? And literally the designs of like all the girls came within like 15 minutes within each sketch, and I just threw them at Ami. Like, this is Ruby, this is Weiss, this is Blake, this is Yang. And she was like, how are you dishing this out so fast? And I was like, I don't know. These are sketches, they're not gonna be anything much. We're just gonna develop this little AU. And she was like, yeah, I'm on board, because she liked White Rose at the time. So I was like, yeah. And then we just put out and even as I was typing out like the actual first page of information for future AU, I was developing it on the fly.
mm-hmm.
Improv is amazing.
Improv is amazing.
And then I was like, yeah, you guys know me as that one artist that does dumb comics for RWBY AU, so this is the one thing that I want to do, show you guys, generate a little. We were at most, I was thinking I was gonna generate interest within at least like 10 people, and then I would just draw for that 10 people.
I think that you maybe overshot that 10 a little bit. Maybe.
Well, maybe it's overshot 10. Yeah, maybe. And then I developed it like just okay. Ruby is a full like. At the time, it was like what season 1 episode. It was after. It was specifically after the genre arc, right? Going to the Stray arc.
Yeah.
And that was when because I know it was the second to last episode where I started pumping out these ideas. So I was just like, okay. It seems that there is like some Weiss and like, I didn't even realize that there was going to be some Weiss and Blake development, so I was just like, hey, you know, it'd be funny, because, you know, Faunus and shit like that, and the Schnee, because, like, we got all that little bits of information from the trailers themselves, and, like, little bits in the show. So I was like, you know, it'd be funny, like, you know, it's a good way of saying, like, I'm sorry for stealing all your trains, why don't I become a bodyguard for you?
Yeah.
So, like, that was the one thing that I thought of for Blake, and then I was like, and then I thought, okay, so I don't want Blake to look, and the design for Blake, I was thinking along those lines. It's like it just runs along a certain pattern. Once you start thinking of like one thing, it just follows to another, and it's just like, okay, I don't want Blake to like look the same or something, and I don't want her to share like this pattern of Yang having huge amounts of hair. And so it's just like, you know what, let me just do something with like the top part of her head just to like make her stand out. And like legit, like genuinely, I thought people were gonna hate me for the design choice. I was like, let me just push her hair back, like slick it back. People will get mad at me, but I don't care, it's my thing. And it had
and then
the
people
opposite
didn't.
effect.
Yeah.
So
well, you know what
yeah,
they say,
it was...
hope for the best, expect the worst.
I know. Well, actually, that's the first time I heard of that. But like, really, it was just to
Wait,
make
really?
something,
I
and
heard that.
just uh, it was just to show that like Blake had a little bit of, just
Change.
she's showing off. Yeah, she's showing off she's a faunus, so it's
Yeah.
you
Different
know,
person.
yeah.
All right. So eventually, it did turn the corner from being just kind of. I'm not sure this is exactly when because I wasn't actually super duper into the fandom specifically when the future AU blew up, so I will admit that right now. But eventually it did turn the design, or the corner from being just kind of these designs and ideas to eventually being, well, the future AU, which everybody's probably heard of at this point. So
Yeah.
when was that corner really turned, and what did that do for future developing of the ideas?
Uh, um, looking back, I think it was I think it was because Zextrin Chrissy. I saw her around like a few times in the RWBY fandom. We never really interacted, but I was like, oh, she's around, and I've read some of her Bumblebee fics, and they were nice. And then she was like, she saw the like we saw each other at distances, like when we were talking about it. Like we saw each other at distance, but we didn't really talk to each other because we were both nervous and shy. And then I was like, and then she I think she reblogged. I know specifically she reblogged the drawings I did of like when I was showing like time differences, like 17 to 23 and all that. And then she was like, something about cover me in catnip and feed me to that Blake. So then I just drew. So then I just drew like Blake and Chrissy from what little I knew of her at the time. She was just covered in catnip, and like Blake was like sniffing her, and I was like, "Is this acceptable?" And then she was like, she got happy, and then I guess that spread because I'm pretty sure that was the turning point because then a lot of people started noticing, and I was like, "Oh no."
The Chrissy effect.
Yeah.
Forever and always. Everything I touch turns to popular. All right. Okay. So that was, and then how did that really change, or how did, if at all, change the ideas, or change the way that the ideas then came about after that, the way it was
I
developed,
think it
continuing.
changed it more to like not making it so small now.
Hmm.
Like people were like, "What is this? Why is that a thing?" And I was like, "Oh, I need to start thinking up stuff now." So I started to like so I started to just like rewatch the series again, and then it was like, okay, thinking along the lines of, okay, well, Ruby's gonna be a full-time huntress. She wants to do that, so she is going to do that. Weiss is the heiress to the company, and this was before we all knew she had a mysterious secret sister. Like, okay, then, like, okay,
Yeah.
RT, fucking throw that in the second season. I'm just like,
Winter ruined
what?
everyone's plans.
I
It's
know.
okay.
It was just, well, it's just like when you say heiress, you assume there's only
Yeah,
like
she's the oldest,
one to
but she's
inherit.
still referred to as the heiress.
Heiress.
Like,
So I'm just like, I don't. What? I am also designing Winter right now.
that's it. You heard
Older
it here
Winter.
first.
And she will be referred to as General Schnee. Fucking upgrade that shit.
All right.
um,
Oh, the question still needs to be answered.
yeah, so it's just, it developed more into just, okay, let me just put it into a wide, broader scope than just the comic that I originally was just going to leave it at that. Die, chicken. Duck thing, whatever the fuck you are. um, and then, so it, like, the bigger coverage just made it go into a bigger, I guess,
All right.
development. Because then Ami and I started looking like, oh, this got a lot more noticed than we thought. Like, what should we do? I was like, hey, let's just put out little small comics here and there, just to explain what's going on.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
All right. Well, that is the origin story for future AU. So then the questions turn a little bit more general. When seeking to develop, what would you look to do as far as the ordering would go? Would you look for world properties, character properties, differences, similarities, etc.? Like, what would be the first things that you look to start doing?
It's kind of funny. I think I would just focus on the characters for a bit, because the characters kind of mold the world, in the world of the AU, in my experience anyway. When I was developing future AU, and I think it could be said for the same when I did it for RWBY AU and even Bloodlines AU. So it was mostly like I was thinking about the character traits, their positions in each one. RWBY AU, okay, it's a fucked up, tragic version of Ruby that grew older and very, very jaded. And that in turn,
that works.
yeah, and that in turn caused the development of, okay, maybe Dust has like properties that aren't just in working with weapons and stuff. And that's that sort of world thing. And then it was just like, okay, you know, it'd be really cool if like hunters had like more prominence, like important prominence in another version of the Ruby universe. Like they had more standing. It was kind of like a knight, kind of like an old feudal system thingy. Or I just thought of it more as like a lord knight thingy, but it's with hunters, so it's just like, yeah. And that's where like Bloodlines AU came in. So I was like, okay, well, Ruby would be the head of the household because she is of the Rose Hunter family, and then that would mean Weiss would be married into. That is basically my arranged AU for White Rose. And that was the whole thing. It was just like, okay, so develop that, and then yeah. So I was thinking of like, and then Blake would be part of like some faunus isolationist thing. So yeah, and the characters really, that's what I look for most, like the important traits, and then it could just go off from there. Although I have done a few where the world kind of like molds the characters, which I think is what is more caused in Bloodlines AU. So I've experienced both, and if you can get it to work, the important thing is to connect all the dots together. I would say if it makes sense, you can tell if it makes sense. If it doesn't, then you're just like, let me do something else.
And if it doesn't make sense, make it make sense.
Yeah, you can force it because you can force it to make sense because it's an AU. You can do whatever the hell you want. And I think what's cool about like making an AU specifically rather than just making like a whole new universe entirely is because an AU implies it's still connected to the original verse, right? So you're still like you're kind of limited to like some of the rules and like expectations that the original verse had. You're just twisting it, so that in turn creates a sense of creativity when you're trying to make it all work again.
At what point does it become less so about the general ideas and more so about the fine print within this world?
Fine print as in
it's just it's the details. You know, they always say devil's in the details.
Okay, yeah. I think at that point, what was the question again? Like, when
does it become less so about the general? At which point does it become less so about the general details and more so about the fine print? Like, when does it become less so like, okay, well, Blake is the security manager for the Shinidas company, and when does it become, this is just kind of an exaggeration, but it's just like, what does Blake eat for lunch every day? You know, stuff like that. Just really, really specific stuff that just... No, that's not modified at all.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think it becomes like it diverges after, like it grows from that, like once you just like have all the bigger pieces in place. Like the bigger pieces are really just establishing what each character is doing, I think. What they're doing and what they're doing, how they're doing it, and just like how they go about it, I think is when it goes into the details, you know?
mm-hmm.
Cuz like the bigger pieces are like, for example, okay, in Bloodlines AU, I wanted to get Weiss and Ruby married. How do I do that? Well, you arrange it. You arrange it. But then I guess the details go into, okay, well, how does Weiss feel about it? How does Ruby feel about it? How do they get to that point of understanding? Because of course I put it, and then the little details come in, like, okay, well, originally she thought she was going to get Pyrenicos, marry into that prestigious hunter family, but no, she got Rubies. Who she first saw rolling in the dirt with her dog, so that was kind of like a bad first impression.
That's great first impressions. That's how you do it. If you're ever looking to impress the ladies, just follow Ruby Rose's pattern.
Yeah, so like, okay, so that in turn creates conflict. Like, if you can create a sense of conflict and drama in there, that's A+, you're on the right track. Because then, you know, you go into the finer details. Okay, what's the hurdles that they go over? How long is it before they actually fucking kiss? Because, yeah, there's the drag
That's the real
out.
question.
Like, how long is it until they mac out, and then how long is it until they get in bed with each other? That's, like, the two important questions. The priorities of an AU maker. Like,
What's funny is that I was actually going to ask you, like, kind of as one of the some of the final two questions, like, you know, in the actual interviews, it's like, what's the questions you get asked the most, and what's the biggest piece of advice? One of my questions, like, to kind of substitute replace that was going to be, what is the most important questions to ask when making your own AU? Well, you just answered that right now.
What is the most important question? When do they kiss? When do they mac out? And when do they get to the grind? Like, yes! You know when you hit the jackpot when you have a first, middle, and an ending. Usually the ending is when they finally get to it. Like, fuck me, finally.
It's so much better that you said, when do they get to the grind, because they're lesbians. Just makes it...
Yes! The grind, indeed. Because it's a grind to get there, and it's gonna be a grind later, so you might as well fucking enjoy it. And you will enjoy it.
NSFW now.
I'm sorry I killed your host. Actually, I'm not. Hey, one of the answers. That's really all I want. What do I want out of an AU? Them to get together. And if it gets to the nasty, hell yes. That's what I wanted. Jackpot. Reward taken. The struggle is over.
I want that on a shirt.
The struggle is over. Like, if you have UST between two of the characters, it's like UST with yourself. It's like, shit, when will you do it? I have to develop all of this for you guys. Jesus. You're making me work for this. Hey, if it's a work for you, it's a work for the characters. So you're on the right track when you're making it work.
Oh my god, I'm so glad that I invited you back onto the show.
You're welcome.
That was amazing. Oh my god.
So yes, those are the two important questions to ask yourself, AU makers. What is it that you want? Well, the two of them to kiss. That's good. Second question, how long does it take for them to mac? Oh, that's an important question. Now that's the payoff right there. That is the payoff. You know how, like, they teach you this in, like, art school. It's like, you have, like, a whole painting. You have, like, a whole painting. Okay, what's your focal point? Yeah, what's your focal point? Okay, you gotta lead. Yeah, everything about the picture has to lead into the focal point. Okay, And then the payoff is bang! Literally.
I just like the idea of like on the fucking they're like in art school and on the chalkboard it's like, all right, well, remember when you're making your art, when do they kiss? When do they bang?
Yeah. Hey, I actually had a lesson like that with a teacher, and it was the most like impressive like lesson that it stuck with me, and I'm just like, damn.
I mean, it definitely would stick with me, but in what way is where the questions come in? Oh my god, that was really funny. All right. What's the biggest piece of advice that you can give to people looking to build AUs?
Mm, have have like a sort of clear goal, basically, for what you want with the AU. What do you want to show off? What do you want to like? You know, what do you want to tell people, basically? Okay, yay, I like this pairing in a certain way, and also to have just like passion for it, because like it's sort of like a thing where where people start something and it's just it's easy to start something. It's like a struggle to like stay into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's just like I'm still into like wanting to make the future AU better. Like the only reason I'm not making new content for it right now is that it's an AU, but it's still specifically like that limitation I said before. It's still running along like what
Mm-hmm.
the series itself is showing to me.
Yeah.
So, um, so that means I have to wait, and sometimes people don't want to wait; they just want to make it now, and that's a
Yeah.
lesson I have to teach myself because I'm not the most patient person in the world too. So,
Yeah.
and advice. I mean, if you get to a certain if you get it to a certain point, also like make it fun for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I don't know if you saw the question Anon asked Chrissy, but like I
Yeah.
think like the reason why she liked Future AU a lot is because it's creative and it's open. Like the only specific things like there's like two versions too, like my Future AU. It's like the vanilla version, which is like specifically just the usual pairings, Weiss, Ruby,
White Rose Love
like
Fest.
Yang. Yeah. White Rose and like Bumblebee, which is like the two thing. And then there's the polyamorous version, which a lot of people seem to subscribe to because I mean, it's not hard to picture the four girls liking each other like that too. So it's just a matter of uh thinking of how they go about that. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
like so those are the two versions, but either way, the two versions are still open to, you know, whatever I want
Yeah.
or whatever people want to suggest to me. Like at
Mm-hmm.
most I'm uh I don't really have much say. I mean, I do, but it's like um I do, but it's just like I want to still keep it open just to like cuz I like hearing people's ideas about it and
Mm-hmm.
like seeing like, oh yeah, that could work too, but it's just like it's still open until I
Yeah.
specifically say something about the AU. You can do whatever you want. And I can have fun with it too. So like at one point I could be shipping Weiss or I mean Ruby with like someone like maybe I don't know Cinder.
Winter.
Spoiler alert, she's still in there. Oh, Winter too. Yeah, that's what I was like.
Eh.
That's what I was like at first. Maybe like it'd be funny if like Winter like teased her little sister a bit about so I heard you like that famous huntress. Ha ha ha. Eyebrow waggle. But in her sophisticated way.
Yeah.
Way. Um
Very robotic
and that
pattern
would
of
just
speech.
yeah. It's not robotic, it's sophisticated.
That's fucking robotic. Call it what you will.
Weiss and Winter would take offense to that, but they're high classy as that, so they want to be seen. keep your AU open to suggestions from other people, to yourself. That also generates, interest and like a motivation to keep going, you know?
Mm-hmm. All right.
Mm,
Well,
it'd be
is there
fun.
anything else you want to say?
Uh, I'm just like in this like. Also, if you can get some like fix to be written for it, that ain't too bad too. I'm still
That's
surprised like people would like uh I didn't really expect Chrissy to actually make the freezer burn fic. I was like, oh well, you're still writing for it. But back then, and like Irie did it too, and like a few others. So if you can also get fics for it too, spread out the word. Uh, that's also a good way. Also, kind of just don't force don't force the AU down people's throats. Like people will like it if they like it. If they don't,
yeah.
then it's still audience generated. That's another thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like don't impose the AU and because really it's just an AU. That's it.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, that'll conclude this lovely little talk. I'd like to thank Funblade for coming on to the show once.
Hello.
Maybe not necessarily once more. Maybe I shouldn't use officially. Thanks for coming on the show for the first time. Unofficially, thanks for coming back onto the show. It was a lot of fun to have you back on. I'm sure that there will be a lovely highlight video of you talking about lesbians uh, after the things that just transpired. But otherwise, that'll conclude this episode of Dylan Talks Fandom. I hesitate to talk about the next interview because I don't know when it's going to be announced. Actually, no, fuck it. All right, the next interview will be with Tora. It's not yet scheduled as of this coming out, so just be careful. But leave questions for Tora in the description, or not in the description below, in a retrievable manner. So that way I can just get them preferably on the Dylan Talks Fandom group on the Rooster Teeth website. Otherwise, there isn't really much more to cover. I'd like to thank Funblade once again for coming back on the show.
Bye everyone. Bye
Uh,
bye.
yep. All right. So with that, that'll conclude this episode. I will see all of you the next time. Bye.